somebody with 4 Wasteland, 4 Stifle, 4 Daze, and he has Spell Pierces. This is a deck that's very, very, very much trying to choke you on mana.
Marcel Dizon playing Temur Delver, a deck that we've seen an uptick in popularity recently as people try to address the blue-red menace by Nimble Mongoose and Tarmogoyf, 2 cards that are very challenging to remove with red removal. Joe's going to start off the action with a Flooded Strand.
Now, Joe Lossett, certainly very well known for playing Miracles. Nothing too unusual this time around. He does have 1 Dig Through Time, which we've been seeing a lot of out of him. Interestingly, he's only running 2 Swords to Plowshares, helping make room for 2 main deck Pyroblasts.
Marcel with a turn 1 Delver of Secrets off a Tropical Island on the draw. Joe here trying to open up the action on the second turn with a Tundra and a Sensei's Divining Top.
And this is the matchup, one of the many matchups that Joe Lossett is looking for. Part of the compelling reason to play Miracles is how good it is against these low mana blue decks that are mostly 1-drops. Sensei's Divining Top plus Counterbalance, so good at foiling that.
Though the matchup has gotten worse in my estimation for Miracles, as you see a Wasteland here take out Joe's Tundra, because Treasure Cruise means that the Delver decks aren't necessarily beat in a long game. Though Temur Delver does not have that kind of card available to it, as Marcel plays a second Delver of Secrets and passes the turn.
Yeah, I mean, not even, he doesn't have nice things like Abrupt Decay. He does have 1 Croson Grip in the sideboard, so he does have a kind of ace up his sleeve. But in general, he's going to just try to get ahead on mana. He's going to be using things like Delver of Secrets, as we're seeing now, and trying to stay ahead of Lossett on mana. The big thing that Lossett needs is a Terminus. If he ever can find a Terminus and get it on top of his deck, he has a chance to just blow Marcel out of the water.
But he does not have that much time to find it.
Debating what of the top 3 cards he wants to draw this turn. A lot of good options. Does he have more mana, though? I mean, having basic Plains as your 1 land in play is not ideal.
Though he needs to insulate himself a little bit from Wasteland if he can avoid it, too.
That's true.
And Joe is definitely willing to take hits early on in the game to try to ensure that he gets hit by Wasteland as little bit as possible, even if he stumbles on Colored Mana a bit.
A rare double whiff on Delver of Secrets. Back-to-back turns missing. Marcel continuing with the mediocre beats. Ponder. This basically ensures the Delvers are going to get live next turn.
Although, looks like Marcel kept 1 of the cards, and with 2 lands on top, I imagine we're going to see a shuffle. Passes the turn back to Joe. Marcel threatening a Stifle in hand.
And keep in mind, Marcel holding the Stifle, his plan is to crack this Scalding Tarn before the draw phase because he doesn't have a spell on top for his Delvers. He has 2 land on top of his deck.
And this gives him the option to Brainstorm if Joe does nothing to stifle, and if there's something to stifle, well, then he just does that instead and Brainstorms on the upkeep.
Yeah, I mean, Marcel would love to stifle this Scalding Tarn.
And here's a Terminus from Joe.
Are we going to see a Stifle on the Miracle trigger?
He has a lot of options here.
A lot of players don't realize you can do that.
He can also simply Force of Will this, and it looks like that's what Marcel is going to do. So Joe backing him up saying, please pay. We got to pay for the Terminus, first of all.
Well, yeah, I think Joe is also making sure that it's clear that the opportunity to stifle it has passed.
Yes. So
Joe very experienced in this particular battle.
Joe trying to sack his Scalding Tarn here, perhaps for a Spell Pierce, but Marcel ready with the Stifle. And now Joe way behind on resources.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he was really counting on this Terminus.
And Marcel still with a Brainstorm left over in his hand to set up these Delver triggers on his next upkeep.
Yeah, ensuring that Lossett is effectively on a virtual 3-turn clock. And between that Scalding Tarn and the possibility of Marcel finding a Lightning Bolt, we could find ourselves in a 2-turn game.
All right, Joe's gonna crack this Tarn while Marcel's mana is all tapped. Finds an island.
What's Lossett need here besides, obviously finding another Terminus? What other options does he have?
He can try to chain together, no Snapcaster Mages, so spot removal, trying to chain together Source of Plowshares is going to be pretty tough. He has a couple of main deck Pyroblasts.
Yeah, he's a little ways away from being able to entreat the Angels effectively.
It looks like Marcel just took a draw step here and again failed to flip these Delvers.
Interesting. He could have brainstormed in response to the trigger, but I guess it would have been spell pierced anyway.
And passes the turn back to Joe, who has, as badly as things have been going for him, the fact that these Delvers are not flipped.
He did not play the flooded strand before the brainstorm. You know, he was thinking he might want to shuffle it back, but that cost him, as spell pierce was able to effectively counter the brainstorm.
Joe with the top activation here on the upkeep. Not out of the woods just yet.
Oh, not even remotely. Plus, it's all fun and games now. Eventually, those Delvers are going to flip. Lossett could still be looking at a 2-turn clock if those Delvers flip right now.
Triggers on the upkeep. Finally, stifle.
Even a stifle.
Now, does Marcel want to draw the stifle?
Are we going to see a terminus? That's what this is looking like. And it is.
There's a terminus. Let's see if Marcel still wants to draw the stifle. Appears the answer is no. He's going to shuffle. It's Tropical Island.
Players of the Standard Open are ranked around 5 people.
And it looks like Lossett has found a Vendilion Click, which combined with that Caracas he has in play, could be a road to actually winning, both doing the damage to Marcel, but also Vendilion clicking himself to try to find a little bit more action.
Joe is currently short of double blue, but if he's able to find a second blue source, he can start going down that line of play, as you mentioned.
Yeah, and he has the top on top, which is going to give him some dig, but he doesn't have the extra blue yet. His mana has been really disrupted between that Wasteland and the Stifle on his Scalding Tarn. Lossett is not operating at a peak mana efficiency here. Love all the legends in Lossett's deck, both Venser and Vendilion Click.
I don't know how much you've seen of the Joe Lossett highlight reel, but there has been some work put in with those Vensers.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Plus, he's still fighting the good fight with Baneslayer Angels in his sideboard. I respect that.
I've lost to Joe Lossett's Baneslayer Angels, in
I
fact.
bet you have.
Delver of Secrets for Marcel. Brainstorm for Joe.
Flooded Strand, very, very nice.
What I appreciate about watching Joe play this deck too is just the pace of play. Aware that the clock is working against him in a lot of respects.
Yeah, I mean, 48 minutes left in the match still, and he's playing lightning quick.
Sensei's Divine Top. This Delver will flip. Brainstorm the draw for Marcel. An attack for 3, knocking Joe down to 9.
Lossett, definitely one of the premier Miracles players on Earth. I mean, this is his bread and butter.
Looking at a Pyroblast here. Still no access to red mana.
He's got that Flooded Strand in play, but it's risky given Wasteland and Stifle. He even knows that Marcel is likely to have a Stifle.
Well, Marcel shuffled away when that Stifle got revealed, but just drew a different Stifle instead. So we'll see if Joe plays around it here, but if he overvalues this Pyroblast and doesn't have access to red mana, could be some trouble.
Yeah, I mean, that Terminus might have to be the way to do things here. But Lossett also willing to take his time. So he is going to Terminus first.
Marcel will brainstorm a response.
It's not clear that Marcel knows he can stifle the Miracle Trigger. That's interesting. The Lightning Bolt in hand means that he could kill Lossett if that Delver can connect 2 more times. Oh, no, he knows. He knows. Of course he knows.
And here's a Stifle on the Miracle Trigger. Joe still gets to draw the Terminus as a result, but he does not have an opportunity for the reduced cost on it.
Yeah, that means that next turn, if Lossett can get up to 6 mana, he can just hard cast Terminus. Alternatively, if he can find something like a Brainstorm, he could put it back and have another go at miracling the Terminus.
Sends it back. Before Marcel gets a draw.
Is this another Terminus? Wow.
Delver of Secrets to the bottom. I believe Marcel early on in the game had an opportunity on the second turn to try to force a will. That Sensei's Divine Top, and you see why a lot of players like to take that line of play, because when this deck has a Divine Top in play, it's a completely different animal.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, this deck abuses the hell out of Sensei's Divining Top. Having the ability to continually look at the top of the library and shuffle as a result of fetch lands, while also being able to juggle miracles until the best possible moment, and to be able to trigger a miracle at a moment's notice by popping the top.
A second lightning bolt for Marcel.
There's Sensei's Divining Top. Lossett doesn't know how close to death he is.
Here is a bolt from Marcel, knocks Joe down to 6.
Well, now he's got an idea.
Fort Bolt the draw.
Interesting. Wow, what do you think about leading with the forked bolt there? That sends a message that the fetch lands might be risky.
Without a second red source of mana to cast the lightning bolt here, I would have preferred to just say go, I believe.
Yeah, because, I mean, you can also lightning bolt on Lossett's end step and then untap and forked bolt in the event that Lossett cracks one of his fetch lands.
All right. Here's another activation of the Divine Top from
Wow,
Joe.
counterbalance is huge. Yep. Lossett knows this is where he needs to assemble countertop ASAP.
Joe's going to fall to 3.
Sensei's Divining Top with counterbalance, effectively locking Marcel out of 1-drops. However, it is possible for a flurry of spells to get Lossett in response.
Very challenging to do, but possible. As you see, counterbalance from Joe.
Warms my cold, dead heart to see counterbalance and Sensei's Divining Top together again.
Tarmogoyf, the draw from Marcel. Top activated in response. One of the few live draws really left in Marcel's deck.
Now, this is interesting because depending on what Lossett does here, Marcel has the ability to bolt in response, you know. In general, as long as the top is sitting in play, he can't never bolt. But if he can, it does make it harder for Lossett to fight his battles.
Tarmogoyf in. Joe simply draws and passes a second lightning bolt.
That's interesting. So one of the things that Marcel can eventually do here is if he finds another red mana, he can bolt, and then in response to the top going on top, bolt again. Alternatively, even without another red mana, he can bolt Lossett. Lossett draws the top, and he can bolt Lossett again after Lossett draws the top. If, I guess he still needs another red mana.
All right, Joe's going to go ahead and click Marcel. Looks at a hand of 2 lightning bolts.
Wow. That's a pretty intense hand.
Yep. And there is some risk here with sending one of these bolts to the bottom, because if it causes Marcel to draw
like a 2?
A Tarmogoyf.
Mm-hmm.
Even a Delver Secrets is problematic for the ability to respond to a top activation with the lightning bolt.
Now, Lossett does have a Terminus in hand and 2 fetch lands. He could drop to 1, Terminus away the Tarmogoyf and the Delver, or the 2 Tarmogoyfs. However, that leaves him without the ability to juggle anything with his top, giving him no extra defense.
And he's really jammed on mana right now.
Oh, yeah. Still feeling the pain of that stifle in that wasteland.
Joe contemplating a Divine Top activation, but that mana is painful. Just takes a draw instead.
Force of Will, Vendilion Click, and then it looks like, is that a white card?
Yes. Passes back.
Probably Entreat the Angels. No, Terminus, that's right, Terminus.
Another Vendilion Click. Brainstorm response. Marcel saying, you want to go ahead and put that Divine Top on top? The alternative is Marcel gets a brainstorm to resolve. Miracles always operating on the finest of margins.
Oh yeah. So at what point do you think you just start going after the bolts so that you can beat him even if he draws a red mana?
I think with the number of shuffles that Joe has access to, I think at right now it's worth just playing this straight up and not doing anything about the bolts. And there's a lightning bolt. Joe falls to 1 in response.
Looks like we got ourselves a stack building here.
Yep.
Now, is it possible that he's going to end up trying to stifle the Sensei's Divining Top trigger ability to go back on top?
Well, we know the last card in his hand is Lightning Bolt, so unless Joe does something weird with the Vendilion Click, I don't think that's in play. Joe can just let him keep that bolt in hand if he feels so inclined.
This is interesting. And Lossett sees now that this is going to have to be the moment in which he cracks his fetch lands.
But because Marcel has ordered it this way, simply putting the top on top of the deck counters both spells.
Yeah, this is interesting.
Marcel likely needed to wait until Joe went to tap the Divining Top.
Well, now Lossett is going to have to shuffle before the brainstorm resolves, right? Flooded
Yes.
Strand is not optional. You don't have to find a land, but you must shuffle.
So at that point, the top is done for if Joe is forced to put it on top of the deck. And then Marcel's hand, again, is unlocked.
This is an intense battle.
Yep. And Joe has no margin for error.
I mean, Lossett has just the 1 mana from Caracas left, but he really is counting on that Caracas to be able to bounce the Vendilion Click to keep the party going.
And that's another problematic card here. If Marcel finds Wasteland, now that line of play gets cut off.
And it looks like Lossett is going to have to crack the top, which means that the top's going to get shuffled away.
Now this Flooded Strand resolves.
And you can't fail. I mean, you can fail to find, but you must shuffle your deck.
This also means that the Brainstorm still has a chance to resolve.
Oh yeah,
Because it's going to be
a
a blind
favorite to resolve.
It's a blind reveal. Legacy is full of some tricky stacks.
Lossett going ahead and getting the Tundra, realizing, you know what, if he draws Wasteland, he's going after this Caracas anyway.
Yep, it's a freebie to get Tundra here.
Yeah.
And here comes a big blind reveal for Joe.
Watch, if this just flips a top.
Jace the Mind Sculptor, not a bad consolation prize.
Yeah, but all this was in response to the Vendilion Click, right?
Yes.
Which means the Vendilion Click hasn't chosen a target yet, which means it can go after Marcel, because at this point you actually want to hit that lightning bolt.
Though now Marcel has the opportunity to hide the lightning bolt away from the Vendilion Click.
But he also has an opportunity to lightning bolt this turn off the Flooded Strand.
Well, not that we're in the middle of combat here, because he can't keep, if he keeps the bolt in his hand.
He hasn't played a land this turn yet, right? Oh, you're right, because of the Vendilion Click, you're right.
Yeah, there's no way for him to set it up. He either has to leave the bolt in his hand or wait a turn.
Yep.
And now finally, it looks like we're ready to proceed.
Interesting. Remember, Joe Lossett has Force of Will in his hand. However, he does not have the ability to pitch cast it.
And you see him actually click himself as a result.
Yeah, he knows that Marcel hid the bolt, but that's why I said maybe if you're Marcel, you just keep the bolt in your hand anyway, bluffing as though you put the bolt back, hiding it.
So here's a Delver post-combat. Joe reveals Counterspell to the counterbalance. That was a really gutsy move there by Joe, because if Marcel just keeps Lightning Bolt in his hand and a land, he can kill Joe. But Joe correctly sensed that Marcel would conceal the Lightning Bolt, allowing Joe a free click on himself.
Yeah, quite the chess match.
But now the question is, can Joe answer these two threats?
Yeah, I mean, he's got Terminus, which means he can beat the board. The problem is he's gonna have to rely. Oh, wow.
A daze for a hard cast Terminus.
Wow.
Joe reveals the counterbalance. It's a 1. And that's game 1 to Marcel.
Wow, he even would have had the counter for the bolt.
Unbelievable.
So good.
And Marcel, I don't know if he's running to the restroom or just taking a victory lap, but that was a sweet game number 1. Who even cares if you lose the match at that point? That was a sweet first game. And now we move on to the sideboards. Wow.
So what's Lossett got coming in?
2 Pyroclasm, 2 Red Elemental Blast, 2 Baneslayer Angel, 2 Flusterstorm, a Counterspell, a Jace the Mind Sculptor, Pithy Needle, a Containment Priest, a Venser Shaper Savant, a Wear Tear, and a Hydro Blast. So in this matchup, I think that I like the 2 copies of Red Elemental Blast.
Definitely.
And the 2 copies of Baneslayer Angel.
Yep.
I think the extra copy of Venser is okay.
Yeah.
Not great, but and maybe the 1 Hydro Blast as well, but not a lot of great options.
Right.
On the other side, 3 Red Elemental Blast, a Pyroblast, 2 Grafdigger's Cage, 2 Flusterstorm, 2 Rough Tumble, a Submerge, a Blue Elemental Blast, an Ancient Grudge, a Corrosive Grip, a Sulfuric Vortex, and a Pithy Needle. The Needle, the Vortex, and the Corrosive Grip, all great options, as are the Red Blasts.
Absolutely.
Lots to like here. While we wait for these players to sideboard and for Marcel to return, the Complete Commander Guide, an unofficial guide to Commander by Benny Smith. The 2014 update is now available in PDF form. Head over to StarCityGames.com/CompleteCommander to get your copy today. Benny Smith, a well-regarded casual player, who's been a contributor for Star City Games for many years. We are very excited to have his Complete Commander official guide available on the website.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is such a great resource for people who play the Commander format, which has blown up to be basically the second biggest format in Magic. It's gained such a huge following.
Well, it's an opportunity, I think, to be competitive while also creatively expressive. And that's something that the strictly competitive arena doesn't always afford you. Sometimes the best deck just is what it is, but Commander is an opportunity for you to play with the cards that you really like. Deck building is very open-ended.
Yeah, plus they unbanned Kakusho, so there's like legitimacy back in the format.
Yeah, I've never commandered myself, but I did once peruse the ban list and see that Kakusho was there and that Sol Ring was not, and said, well, you know what? Probably not going to go near this.
Back when they used to have gunslinging at pre-releases, they used to be asked to bring Commander decks sometimes, and I Commander sometimes. But I was usually the dude who was like gifts and giving for strip mine when you could do that and just take all the turns.
Yeah. The weird thing about about that format and the ban list that a lot of the cards are banned for money reasons and not necessarily the fact that they are too powerful. But over time, the revised dual lands have gone up to such a level that a lot of them are more expensive than, say,
Moxes.
Well, not necessarily Moxes, but
revised,
Library of Alexandria, for example, which is ostensibly banned for cost reasons, is now, I believe, in the same sphere as Underground Sea and Volcanic Island.
Yeah, I think that a big part of their philosophy is that they kind of want to, a lot of their bans are actually to send a message. They don't want to have a ban list that's like 300 cards long, even though they would actually kind of ban 300 cards. So what they want to do is ban cards that send clear messages about the philosophy. Library of Alexandria is banned because it's a super spiky card that is sort of the epitome of what Commander is not about.
Which is sitting back, building up resources, and then eventually killing someone.
And then Sway the Stars is banned, or was, I think it's still banned, because they're like, look, don't waste everybody's time. This is not the type of thing that is going, this isn't kosher. It's cool to play AoE effects, but come on. And so they banned Sway the Stars just to kind of send a message about a whole bunch of other cards that you might want to give some thought to whether or not it's actually appropriate for your play group.
I can appreciate that a lot of it's going to be feel, too. It's not necessarily about raw power level. Again, it's not a competitive constructed format, so the goals for the ban list are not the same as it would be for something like Legacy or Modern.
Yeah, absolutely. Plus, one of the primary goals of the ban list is just to tilt people.
Yeah.
Yeah, who like consider picking up the format that are super, super spiky, and then they look at the ban list like you.
Right. Maybe it's net upside for the Commander community for me to participate.
Yep.
I tried to build a Zozu the Punisher deck, but then I found out the starting life totals were above 20 and didn't bother.
All right. Time to strap in for game 2. Joe Lossett has Sensei's Divining Top, at least 1 land, and any 5 cards in the world.
Old Maid, rules card for stud poker, his driver's license, good enough. Island and Divining Top. Though Marcel, I believe, with a potent hand of his own containing Pyroblast, Tarmogoyf, and Sulfuric Vortex.
A lot of great cards, and a lot of cards that would really make that Hydroblast look good, that Lossett might have access to. Dude, I don't know. I don't know if I can get behind white bordered basic land.
Oh, it's the Joe special. He loves it.
At least it's revised and not like 5th edition.
No, this is on purpose. I don't know if these were necessarily the first set this was the first set that Joe played with. A lot of people who play with revised lands do so for that reason.
Yep.
Or if he's just trying to annoy people like me.
It is possible. I mean, a lot of the people who play these fetch land heavy decks play white bordered basics, particularly for decks that are slow and need you to move quickly for operations management, because the white bordered basics really are very easy to find in your deck. And when you're playing a deck like Miracles that takes so long to play every round, every second you can save yourself can actually add up.
Now you say that, but Joe also plays the same lands in Standard. So
He plays fetch lands in Standard too.
he has not always. You see a Brainstorm here from Marcel at the end of Joe's turn.
This Miracle deck takes so long. Man, I sometimes wonder, what would it be like? What would it be like if Dan Clegg and Chris Benefell squared off, you know, in a Miracles mirror match?
Here's a Nimble Mongoose. Yeah, what would it be like? It would take a while. Some legends of the game, though not necessarily for the best reasons.
Very strong players.
Very strong players, absolutely. Ponderous players.
Still remember the famous quote. If I lose a match when I was up 1-0, I got nobody to blame but myself.
Chris Benefell. Joe says back with the Divining Top.
Basic Island, Basic Mountain, with more basics in hand. Joe Lossett making sure that Wasteland is not going to be particularly effective. Assembles his counterbalance lock. However, Marcel did stick a Nimble Mongoose, so at least he's got that going for him. Maybe that's the answer to your question. If I were going to try to beat the Delver decks, what would I do? I would play counterbalance top.
Okay. So the lock assembled now for Joe. Marcel with a lot of one casters in his hand. Tries to lead off with a Brainstorm.
Joe, contemplating what to do here. He's got a little bit of mana to work with, but he might not care about the Brainstorm that much.
Here comes an activation of the Divine Top. In response, Marcel with a Pyroblast on the counterbalance reveals
Ooh,
Brainstorm.
That was big. That was big.
And both spells countered. Nimble Mongoose across for 1.
But it does mean that Marcel is going to have a chance to force a will this Sensei's Divining Top. The problem, of course, Lossett has a Pyroblast in the reserve.
Marcel does decide to pick a battle here. He's going to force a will this Divining Top.
But even if Marcel loses this battle, at least he'll be close to powering up the Nimble Mongoose's threshold.
And if he draws a land, potentially Sulfuric Vortex is a play that may allow him to sneak through this counterbalance lock. In response, Joe is going to fetch.
Very disciplined play by Joe, methodically picking his spots, when to fetch, trying to dodge the stifles.
Maximize his shuffles.
Ensure that his top doesn't ever get caught. Marcel, no stranger to being counterbalance locked, knows exactly what he needs to do to try to work his way out of this.
Brainstorm response. Joe hoping to find a force of will of his own here that he can set on top and not have to use the Pyroblast.
And it looks like he's going to have to put the 2 on top because he doesn't have any 1s.
And there's the
he'll have
Pyroblast.
Sensei's Divine Top anyway, but no 5s.
Lock in place. Marcel takes a draw. Is it the 3rd land?
Now, yeah, I like this. By leading with the Brainstorm, he ensures that his Nimble Mongoose will hit for 3 if the Brainstorm gets countered.
Now Joe contemplating a response here. Activates top. 2 lands in a counterbalance.
Yep. Which means he's likely going to put the top on top.
An activation. Response, a lightning bolt targeting Joe. Knocks to 14.
Joe on a 5-turn clock.
Oh, Mongoose knocks him to 11. Can Marcel draw the land he needs for the Sulfuric Vortex?
Nimble Mongoose showing its strength at Jace the Mind Sculptor, unable to bounce Nimble Mongoose.
Top redeployed. Passes the turn. Another attack. Joe falls to 8. Tarmogoyf.
Lossett should have a 2 on top.
Spins the top. Terminus among the cards.
That's right, he shuffled away his other counterbalance, but Terminus is even better. Terminus is exactly what he needs to take over the game. Okay, so he does have the counterbalance, but the Terminus on top is exactly what he needs in order to keep that Nimble Mongoose from killing him.
A deck with scant few answers to Nimble Mongoose, so Terminus very important alongside Entreat the Angels. Here is a Terminus.
It's a miracle.
What were the odds?
Joe Lossett continuing to play lightning fast, knowing that it's going to take him a while to win a game, and it's going to take him a while to win game 3.
Ponder from Marcel. Entreat.
Wow.
That'll speed it up.
That's a big, big, big draw for Lossett next turn. And he lets the ponder resolve. He wants to make sure the top stays in play.
Particularly with Entreat.
Yeah. Besides, what's Marcel even going to ponder into that matters? Well, you and I both know a 3rd land for that Sulfuric Vortex.
It's Volcanic Island, and I don't know if Joe can handle this Vortex right now. He has some outs in his deck. Council's Judgment if it's in there. He can do some shenanigans with Venser. Maybe he's brought in Wear Tear, but Vortex could steal a game that Joe had pretty well cemented.
Yeah, particularly since Joe is counting on Pyroblast right now in his hand as his backup plan. Ineffective against Sulfuric Vortex. Lossett, however, will be able to Sensei's Divining Top on Marcel's end step, letting him entreat for 5. I mean, that's game right there.
And that's the dimension to this Miracles deck, which is so better than the years gone past. The ability to flip the script and win very quickly.
Now, oh, see, if Marcel goes for it here, he's going to lose to the... I mean, I guess there's nothing he can do.
He's got to try.
Well, because the thing is that, yeah, even Stifle doesn't stop the trigger because top will be on top. I think this is going to be all she wrote, at least for this game. Joe was set 22 minutes left. Going to have to play quickly. Sulfuric Vortex hits. It does not. Entreat counters it, of course. Very
and
nice.
There's the Entreat.
And this is going to be an Entreat for 20 damage.
I think Joe is still going to make an effort to play around days here, but...
Yeah, so that's still 16, though.
And 16 will do it.
Well played. And he does play around days, as you said. This is where you got to just hit him with, like, Submerge or something. No, I guess no green, no forest, but... All right, on to game 3. Both players playing relatively quickly. Still have 21 minutes, but with a counterbalance top deck, it's not clear 21 minutes is enough.
Well, this is why Entreat is so important.
Yeah, you gotta get it over with sometimes. You can't just count on Vendilion Click and Venser.
And Brian Rondowin, for example, was another counterbalance player. But instead of playing Entreat, he has a Stoneforge Mystic package in his deck most of the time. Often, or feels like more often, runs into a problem with the clock because that's a much slower kill than just entreating.
Oh yeah, plus it's very disruptible.
Yes.
I mean, it takes a long time to try to rebuy the Batter Skull and doing, you know, stuff like that. Entreat, boom, one hit, one kill, which is also super important when you know that a certain percentage of your games are going to come down to extra turns, and you're going to have to win in 2 or 3 turns.
Yeah. I like the Stoneforge Mystic plan in the sideboard. I can get behind that sometimes because people don't expect it, and it's a lot of free wins if they don't have Swords of Plowshares or Bolts left in their deck. But game 1, I prefer the Entreat kill myself.
Well, so I still like Jace the Mind Sculptor as a top-level victory condition.
Sure, yeah.
When you got that kind of luxury.
Right. Though the format is moving to more and more hostile waters. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
The beatdown decks having Treasure Cruise, made like Pyroblast all over the place.
Lightning Bolt.
Not a great time for Jace.
No, it's tough. Fortunately, he's better than all.
Still.
Yeah.
Well,
but it's definitely starting to get into Michael Jordan's Wizards era. You know, he's still the Michael Jordan of Magic, but...
Still has his moments.
Yeah.
But game in, game out, can you count on him to carry your franchise? Those days are probably in the rearview mirror.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen Jace Architect of Thought. We've seen Jace Memory Adept. I think nowadays we're a little bit in Jace's Living Guild Pact sort of phase of his planeswalking.
Still a rotation player, but we're holding on to memories at this point.
Yeah. Yeah.
Game 3 about to get started. Marcel with 7 good spells in his opening hand. That one's going back.
Fortunately, Teamer Delver mulligans extremely well. It operates on a very low curve. Its mana is, you know, it doesn't have extremely difficult mana requirements. It's got a lot of spells that cost 1 mana that can give it the advantages it needs, and Treasure Cruise can get it way ahead.
Well, except for that last thing. Nimble Mongoose maybe gets it way ahead.
Oh, no. I don't even know. Once you don't have Treasure Cruise, why are you even doing this?
Because
I wash my hands of this Teamer Delver deck.
You want the green creatures. Because you think that green creatures are very good in a Lightning Bolt metagame.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, now I'll admit, a 1-mana 3/3 hexproof is, you know, a 3/3 Shroud. You could do a lot worse than a 3/3 Shroud for 1.
And this is now an opening hand of 6 spells.
Marcel has to drop to 5. Fortunately, he has Nimble Mongoose in his deck, so there's that.
Bound to recover.
Yeah. Yeah, gonna have that snapback swag. 5 cards, no problem. He'll bounce right back.
Well, a lot of the heavy lifting Joe has done in these 2 games has been on the back of top plus counterbalance, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
If he doesn't have that kind of opening, I think Marcel's good 5-card hands give him a lot of game.
Yeah, I mean, this is a real tough matchup for him anyway. This is why you play Miracles.
And it looks like he's got a 5-card hand with Nimble Mongoose.
The beats begin. They got to start somewhere. You of all people, I know you know this.
Your opponent will not fall to 20 by themselves. You gotta help them along
Well,
the way.
no, they will fall to 20 by
Or
themselves.
fall to 0, rather. Sometimes they meet you halfway, but you gotta do most of the heavy lifting.
Yeah.
Relic of Progenitus. 2 copies in Joe's main deck this weekend. A low opportunity cost way to really muck up Treasure Cruise, among other cards.
Yeah, including Nimble Mongoose. And it looks like Lossett has a good mix of things, just no immediate answer to the Mongoose beyond the Relic, making sure that the Mongoose never really gets too hairy.
Joe's got his 18 spare life points to play around with as his answer to Nimble Mongoose. A second Relic.
Marcel, bolting.
Speeding it up a little bit.
Let's do this. Upstairs.
One more, 15.
Sometimes you just got to treat them like they're Patrick Dickman, you know? Just send bolts upstairs. Just boom. Removes the lightning bolt. What's that? You know, he's liking this whole Relic of Progenitus thing, but he does need to get something else going. He can't just hang out.
Wear Tear the draw.
Now that's interesting. What are all the targets for wear and tear in this matchup?
Sulfuric Vortex is the big one.
Yeah, but just one copy of that. Is that literally the only thing? I guess he doesn't know that, and he doesn't know how many. He did see the Sulfuric Vortex last game, so he probably brought in the wear tear.
Wasteland on the Caracas. One more. Keep it going.
Taste it. My understanding is Marcel has already received a warning for lands in front of spells.
It could get upgraded.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised. I was expecting with the new Morph announcement when they officially made it so that Morph, you know, forgetting to, you still are supposed to, but forgetting is no longer punishable with a game loss. I was expecting in the same round of announcements to upgrade lands in front of spells to a game loss.
To a lifetime ban.
Yeah. Yeah, lands in front of spells is pretty bad.
Joe with a brainstorm here at the end of Marcel's turn. Marcel says that is fine.
I wonder how much of it is just the Yu-Gi-Oh people, like the people who got their start from Yu-Gi-Oh.
I don't know.
I mean, I know that in some countries that's a little popular, but it does seem to be a generational thing, at least somewhat, because nobody who was playing in the mid-90s would, you know, no self-respecting mage would pull that.
Yeah.
And nowadays, the young kids all know better. A lot of good examples being taught by players like Reed Duke.
You had to be at a particular point in time to have that conduct in your...
That's why I wonder, was it Yu-Gi-Oh? Was it just when Yu-Gi-Oh was big?
Maybe. That could be an influence.
I don't know.
As you see Joe here with a second Divining Top. And a lightning bolt from Marcel. halfway home.
We're halfway there.
And I believe that was another lightning bolt. Nimble Mongoose across for one. More than halfway there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, this Nimble Mongoose is just vicious. See, it's times like this you need a devoted caretaker or something to just tie up the ground.
And is Joe willing to break these fetch lands now? It appears the answer is yes. Falls to 8.
I mean, he's not going to not break them. He's got to do something.
Well, he could try to operate. I mean, he can try to operate without breaking them if possible. The points matter.
Yeah, but so do the shuffles.
Marcel electing not to stifle there, keeping the blue card to pair with his Force of Will to stop some big play from Joe.
Joe aggressively looking for Terminus. Would settle for an Entreat the Angels. Looks like he has it, and he's just going to sculpt his game plan.
Marcel with another bolt in hand.
He's serious. Stay the course. Does he have any Chain Lightnings in there? No, he's got Fork Bolts.
Fork bolts.
Sure. I'm guessing he probably cut the forked bolts in this matchup, but you can never be sure.
Joe going to give up that relic.
Yeah, let me get that off you. I need that. Let me get that.
Counterbalance from Joe.
Boom. Marcel not going to be okay with this. Does he start with the Force of Will?
I don't know. I think there's an argument for, say, you lightning bolt here. Hope that the Force of Will can stop a huge play.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that if you don't stop the counterbalance, your odds are just so slim.
Joe going to fall to 7.
We're going to see a Pyroblast on the Force of Will, most likely.
I believe so.
Joe knowing that he's got 2 game plans he's got to do here. 1, he's got to lock up the game with counterbalance top. And 2, he's eventually going to have to solve his Mongoose problem.
There's the Pyroblast. A bolt from Marcel at Joe.
This is making Joe's breathing room get real tight, real diminished.
And even on 5 cards, Teamer Delver can operate real light on resources.
Oh, yeah.
Joe's going to take that hit. Counterbalance in.
Joe soft locking Marcel at this point, but he's only got 3 more turns to find an answer to the Mongoose.
Joe falls to 3. Passes the turn.
This is like watching 2 of the greatest turntablists battling, like Hubert. It's just question, answer. You know, one person's like does a bunch of scratching, the other person's like supposed to scratch back to, you know, sort of respond and answer.
Dueling banjos, but with turntables.
Definitely. Or in this case, mongoose.
Mongooses.
The mongooses.
Joe contemplating his divine top activation.
And it looks like he's got some miracles. So he's going to wait till the very last moment. Remember, he can also plow his own Entreat the Angels.
Or
Ooh,
Plan
this
B.
is big.
Baneslayer Angel from Joe.
Yeah, Plan A, he double mulligans. Apparently that wasn't enough. Plan B, Baneslayer Angel.
I've been on the receiving hand of this very Baneslayer Angel.
Oh, is this a Sulfuric Vortex? No, it's a Corrosive Grip. Okay.
That's still something. Corrosive grip on the counterbalance. Now Joe still gets
Now at least he's unlocked.
Gitaxian Probe. Wear Tear, Flusterstorm, Swords to Plowshares.
I would have enjoyed a Sulfuric Vortex there, I think. So the Baneslayer is going to get in there. Lossett's life total is going to start to climb. But with Relic of Progenitus long gone, pretty soon the Goose will be loose.
A replacement counterbalance.
This is
now Joe begins to race.
Yep, this is the vice is tightening.
Every aspect of Marcel's deck here being squeezed.
And he packs it in.
Joe
That's the
Lossett,
match.
2 games to 1, an impressive victory. Was not easy, never is against Teamer Delver, but Joe used his life total as a resource, was careful about his land drops, and eventually Baneslayer Angel got the job done.
Yeah, plus